The yeshiva Tomchei Tamimim was founded in the town of Lubavitch by the Rebbe Rashab on the 15th of Elul 5657, Sunday the 12th of September 1897. Studies commenced 3 days later on Chai Elul. 52 years later, on the 30th of Tishrei Tovshin Yud, 23rd of October 1949, in reply to a request for advice from the tiny Lubavitch community in Shepparton, a directive arrived from the Rebbe Yosef Yitzchak to commence operating a yeshiva there immediately, even though there were only 3 students. On Tuesday the 16th of Cheshvan, 8th of November 1949, the first boys arrived in Shepparton and began learning. They were soon joined by others. But by 1951, a move to Melbourne was seen as essential, and the yeshiva relocated to the suburb of Burwood. In 1954, the cheder that was to become Yeshiva College moved into 92 Hotham Street, East St Kilda. A year later, Reb Zalman Serebransky wrote to the Rebbe describing the yeshiva as an institution that numbers close to 100 students, and with Hashem's help we can hope there will be many more. Because this is still fresh and fertile territory, it would be possible, with Hashem's help, that the yeshiva could influence the whole country. Few, if any, dreamed of such a visionary idea. In 1965, the first year 12 class graduated from Yeshiva College. Some of the graduates planned to travel overseas for tertiary level Torah study. To make it possible for these students to remain and study in Melbourne, early in 1966, Reb Zalman wrote to the Rebbe about establishing the first tertiary Torah institution in Australia. The Rebbe instructed him to do so, and so was founded Yeshiva Gedolah, affectionately known as YG. A year later, the Rebbe sent a group of 6 young students, shluchim, to live and study at YG and bring some of the vibrancy of Crown Heights to the local scene. Since then, a new group of 6 shluchim has been sent every 2 years, and in recent times that number has doubled to 12 shluchim. Melbourne pioneered this trend, which has now been implemented for many other Chabad yeshivas all over the world. Ohel Chana is Australia's first tertiary institution for women. It was founded by the Rebbe in 1971 in memory of his mother, Rebbetzin Chana. The project was spearheaded by Rabbi Groner. The Rebbe took a personal interest in the development of Ohel Chana and the progress of its students by inquiring regularly after their welfare and asking for regular reports to be sent to him.
mit keinem sein die Schniches, was ja von mir gehört. Wirklich klar ist so, mit keinem sein, das in guten gesund und mit der Sache nachher von sich und kalt mehr haben gesprochen und der Ewigste soll helfen jeder mit keinem sein die Schniches, was jeder wieder hat. Er versprechen Jüdischkeit und Gutskeit in der ganzen Welt, und das wird noch mehr zuheilen. Da der Ewigste wird in Gichen schicken zu jedem von den Menschen Schliach, und das ist ja Hanoi, was sie tun sollen, als Mashiach kommt schön und schön gekommen, und bin hier bei Amen und Mama.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to Melbourne, Australia. We are down under, and you might think, who knows what's doing about Yiddishkeit down under. But I hope that we will have the opportunity to give you a bird's eye view of the strong Jewish community that we have in Melbourne, and particularly of Chabad Lubavitch in Melbourne, which is one of the biggest institutions in the world. I came here to raise funds, right? Gashmias, material, hat gesagt zu mir, your objective is not only that, verkehrt. I shouldn't say this loud, that's secondary. Your main objective, as mir geschrieben, der Friedrich Rebbe, sehen, planting Ruchnis, to awaken and to speak to the youth particularly, to the people wherever you go, about their Zaydis and Elta Zaydis and the Bobis, that they should remind themselves the way of life of Europe, wherever they come from. That is your objective.
Back in 1979, Tovshin Lametes, when my father consulted the Rebbe about the idea of establishing a kollel, the Rebbe said that it was indeed an extremely appropriate venture and that actually it must come to fruition. But most importantly, it lifted up the Keren HaTorah, the glory of Torah learning here in Melbourne, far and wide, and it's had a tremendous success up until now, and we are looking to go from strength to strength.
Während die Kirche von Teres kann man mocken Leeche zu der Monen was in Yitzchadisch geworden. Wenn ich gehe zu dem Kehle Never Layam in Australien, die, wo sie sonst dort mit Jassi sein und mit Wasser sein und Marchiv sein, sie sich noch und als sie mit Kammerteilen bis wann es am Minne Gisroel Terehu, als a Kehle, in a Kehle nicht nur mit sich zum Werden, recht mit dem Moment Bakunderfahrt. Wie Jeser mir Masche haben mit Kabul, Bakund von dem Nächsten, Bakund dem Nächsten, alle die haben mit Kabul und von dem mit Kabul.
At the heart of Kollel Menachem Lubavitch and all the programs that we do in spreading Torah throughout the community is the Kollel itself. The Kollel is a place where young rabbis, young men can advance their learning of Jewish law, Talmud, Jewish philosophy and mysticism. And it's an opportunity for them to give a foundation to their married lives, but also to develop their skills to serve as the future leaders and rabbis and educators of the Jewish people.
Die Balabatim, was gefunden sich bis wie Wasser, als auf Kolponim Schois Achodes, sollen sie reingehen, echt lernen in Kehle mit der Chavra-Kehle und mit dem Chayes und mit Hasmodu Shkida auf Kolponim bis Schois Sebel. Und das soll bringen zu der Kehle sein und die Sache sein. Kulam Yachad, was er demut wird, Kulonu Kiechon, ist das gleich Mamshis, Barcheno, Vino, Bibirchose, Miyode, Amleya, Psucha, Agdesha, Valchova, bis die Bracha, Bishleimuso, Giulo, Amitis, Vashleimo, Al-Yidei, Mashiach, Sitkeno.
The Jewish community of Melbourne was at first, in Reb Zalman's words, fertile territory, and the small community in East St Kilda was in need of inspiration from the source. But before long, the community with its educational institutions would itself begin to radiate its inspiration outwards. In the mid-1980s, the Rebbe expressed his wish that Chabad houses should be set up immediately. He offered a symbolic monetary contribution for any Chabad house purchased within the next few days.
At that time, the head shliach to Melbourne, Australia, Rabbi Groner, was not in town, so it meant that if anything had to be done, we had to do it with our own initiative. So myself, Rabbi Gordon, who were both members of the Kollel and Shluchim, together with Motel Feiglin, who was involved in real estate, got together to try and implement the Rebbe's call and purchase a Beis Chabad. We only had a few days from Monday afternoon till Friday to be able to pull off and purchase a building in time to be able to send it into the Rebbe.
The first issue was we had to work out where do we buy it. We got hold of the UAA donors list and we took a yellow highlighter and a street directory and put a yellow dot on every area where there were a lot of Jewish people living but no shuls or Jewish facilities. And honed in on one property on Centre Road, East Bentley, which kind of ticked all the boxes. We put in an offer and it was accepted. We went and we put our deposit up, we bought that property and had the contract ready within the time specified. However, the Rebbe needed the copy of the contract within a week, by that Sunday, so we wanted to send it off by Shabbos, so that they'd have it in New York in time. How do we get a contract from Melbourne to New York within that period? We'd heard that there was a new machine called a fax machine, that you could put a contract in on one end and it'll come out at the other end of the world almost momentarily. Furthermore, we heard that one of the wealthiest Yidden in Melbourne had one of those in his office. So we made arrangements and we went to his office and we sent the contract to New York. I actually remember wanting to see if I could see the telephone lines to see a piece of paper going along the lines, how it gets to New York. It got there within the prescribed time that the Rebbe had given us, and Mendel Raskin was zeicher to receive the check from the Rebbe as the only Chabad house in Australia that received this Hishtatvus from the Rebbe in this Beis Chabad.
From that moment on, things started happening rapidly. Chabad on Carlisle, Jewish Russian Centre, was established for the many immigrants from the former Soviet Union. It was founded and run by Rabbi Chaim Elazar Gorelik for its first 40 years.
We came here in June 1980 after we received a very positive response from the Rebbe, a very lengthy one, to come here business. We didn't even sell our house in the United States, we just came here. And my husband started working straight away, first using a room at the back of the Yeshiva Shul, then one of the houses that were on Beckett Street. In early 1986, this house, which was not up for sale, was made available due to the efforts of Motel Feiglin, who persuaded the owner that it would be a very good idea to sell it to us. It was a beautiful mansion. It must have been one of the original houses on Balaclava Road because it's called Balaclava House. It was large, it suited our purposes, but as our activities expanded, we needed to make the shul area particularly much larger. We needed a proper kitchen, but the property itself was just fantastic for our needs.
Branching out further, a Chabad house was established in Malvern, a nearby suburb.
Beis Chabad in the course of the years has developed into a thriving center. We have here now minyanim 3 times a day, in addition to Shabbos, of course. And in the course of the years, this has become known worldwide for various things. Particularly, we have here the Israeli Backpackers program started originally over here. And we've had a post-smicha program here. And now it's a center not only for davening, but for learning. There's a well-known Rogatsh Mashir, which happens here a few times a week.
There are those who it says, mitam hayodu Allahem. Now this is a frequent expression, terminology, phraseology of the Alter Rebbe in the Shulchan Aruch. It's from the point, Shemevorchen Rosh Chodesh, when we have the Shabbos Mevorchen. Shabbos Mevorchen, that's when Mishenichnas Adar, that's when it arrives. It means we're talking about the other already.
Baruch Hashem, through this Beis Chabad, many people have become closer to Yiddishkeit, and Baruch Hashem, we're going from strength to strength.
Meanwhile, the East Bentley experiment was so successful that within a year, a new and much larger premises had to be purchased.
We'd started with a handful of people. We started with the first minyan on Rosh Hashanah. When we came there on Yom Kippur, we had about 20 people waiting at the door to get in. We had 85 kids attending at the first Hanukkah project. It became evident that the place was too small for what we intended, and we had no choice but to purchase larger premises. We found something which was much larger than what we had before, 3 times as large.
From the dedicated group of Israeli immigrants who established our first Merkaz, a gift given with joy to Melbourne's wider Jewish community.
At the early days of Merkaz Shelanu, we were a lot of doubts. We didn't know whether it will be successful, whether it will take off, whether we'll have enough support. But thanks God, dream come true.
You can have a Merkaz that is called Merkaz Shelanu, and yet here there will not be any difference between a Haredi or a Chiloni. There will not be a difference between an Ashir and an Ani. Your tafkid is to make this center an example to the rest of the world.
Our original center quickly became too small, and we had no choice but to build a new.
Welcome to Chabad House of Glen Ira. We started 18 years ago in a small house, struggling to get a minyan. Now we have a beautiful center which incorporates 3 departments, a shul, a creche, and a youth center. Close to 500 adults and children enjoy our services every week here.
Chabad North Caulfield and Smile and Seniors has entered a major capital campaign where we are purchasing properties and then renovating to offer our various programs for our Shul and Community Centre, as well as our Smile and Seniors program. And finally, we'll be starting a childcare for the young families in the area. Shalshelet Bridge the Gap program will be a major focus of our new centre. We'll be bringing seniors from regions and other aged care facilities to do joint programs and Jewish events with the children. It is in sync with the eternal Jewish chain, connecting one generation to the next.
The Chabad House of Caulfield was established in 1992 with the strong recommendation from the Rebbe. It was amongst the first Chabad houses in Australia, and we grew until we came to this premises, which is modelled in the form of 770. We have lots of activities. For 20 years we had a smicha program where boys were ordained as rabbis and studied here, a unique program. We give out the lamplighter every week, which thousands of people read, words of Torah, writings of the Rebbe. We do Hanukkah in the park every year. We also have shiurim, lots of lessons taking place regularly in the shul. The shul is very active during the week, and so we're a hub of Jewish activity, and that's what a Chabad house is supposed to be. You'll notice around the shul here, there are 12 beautiful paintings of the 12 tribes. Why is this in a shul? Well, in the early 2000s, I went to Gush Katif, and there's a shul there, the main shul in the Veid Kalim, where the majority of 5,000 people attended. And I was very impressed by the fact that around the side of the shul, there were pictures of the 12 tribes. And I thought to myself, if I ever build a shul, that's what I'm going to do. And this is what I did do. We had a painter from a lovely woman who did it for the sake of bringing up her children and marrying them off and sending them to yeshiva. But when I look at the pictures, it reminds me of the unfortunate events that took place at Gush Katif in 2005. But at the same time, I think that these paintings are a memory of that beautiful shul that was in the Veid Kalim. Unfortunately, it was destroyed, and I hope these paintings bring a bit of a memory back of what was there.
Here we are in the East Melbourne Synagogue, actually Melbourne's oldest fully functioning shul at the moment. It started here when the Jewish community lived in the inner north of Melbourne, lived in Carlton, Brunswick, North Fitzroy. It was a very vibrant Jewish community in this area of Melbourne. The demographics have shifted, people have moved away from this area now, but starting in the last probably decade or two, the shul started to pick up again, and I got appointed beginning of 2008, and I went to Rabbi Grona and I said, can I be a shliach? I know the shul's not Chabad, but I'm Chabad and my family's Chabad. And he said, 6 months trial. And if you prove to me that you've done outreach work and you've done the work of a shliach, well then I'll endorse you as a shliach, and the shul will remain an Ashkenaz modern Orthodox shul, but you'll be a shliach in that area. It took a few more years, and then eventually under the three head shluchim, I was appointed as a shliach for this area, and it's been an extraordinary opportunity. The only shul in the centre of Melbourne. We've got lots of Jewish families in the inner city now, lots of tourists. It's a great opportunity to put tefillin on them, to meet with them, to spread Yiddishkeit to a part of Melbourne that otherwise wouldn't have. I've got another role as well in the army as an army chaplain. My father was a reserve army chaplain. My grandfather was actually a soldier and then a reserve officer and chaplain as well. And so this is a family tradition, bit of family history. Again, a chance to go to corners where otherwise people wouldn't necessarily be, to spread Yiddishkeit, Hafotzas Hamayonos, to do mitzvahs with people, to do the mitzvahs with people, and to bring a little bit of godliness, a little bit of light into some pretty dark and interesting places.
We were a young Kola couple with only one child when I received the job as rabbi of the local shul Rabbin Hebrew congregation. But it was important to my wife and I that we would also be considered shluchim of the Rebbe. We realized that more and more Jews had been moving into the local neighborhoods, young couples, young children. We started reaching out to them, door knocking the area, visiting them their businesses, and we started having a fair degree of atzlacha, learning with them, shiurim, one-on-one, adult education, and slowly, one by one, we started to build a community. Since then, we've had great atzlacha in attracting people to educational opportunities, to social opportunities, networking events, and also big Yom Tovim. We have close to 1,000 Jews every year for Hanukkah. We have huge Purim parties. But we've known all along that it's the one-on-one, the neshama to the neshama, that's really important.
This building is our youth center. We acquired it from the council about 8 years ago, and it allowed us to offer new and expanded programs and activities for children of all ages within our community. we opened up a new Hebrew school, an after-school Jewish activity called JAE, Jewish After School Enrichment. Here was a chance for children going to the local schools to come and learn about their heritage, connect with their Yiddishkeit, learn how to read Hebrew, become excited about davening, the Yom Tovs, mitzvahs, and more, all in a fun, exciting, engaging, and personalized, tailored environment.
Smiling down in Melbourne, in Cape Town, Moscow and Spain,
who have come to join us today in the celebration of Lag BaOmer.
And I'm sure but you might ask them, but isn't one enough? Why do you need two?
To make sure that it remains Chag Sameach.
That we are proud in our emunah, in our faith in God Almighty.
Brother Bruno, blessed memory, he would drive down in his Rolls and he would salute the youth of today.
Parade, parading, join together hand in hand. Parade, parading, onward to the promised land. Parade, parading, wave your banner to the sky. Parade, parading, come on and join the ride.
One nation all united, we're marching young and old. One people undivided, we're moving on, let's go.
Parade, parading, join together hand in hand. Parade, parading, onward to the promised land. Parade,
Many direct descendants of Moshe, Zalman and Shprintzalea Feiglin have followed their footsteps.
When someone is 18, just out of school or out of school earlier, they need a place they can go, be accepted, not be judged, be able to behave the way they feel comfortable.
My favourite part is definitely the Farbrengens on a Thursday night with their amazing cholent.
The rabbi does an amazing job. It's open, he's willing, he talks. I've seen people come here with nowhere to live, to having a place to live and starting university courses.
I understand Judaism is my home. I'm from Yeshiva, I was brought up going in the mikveh on Yom Kippur. Always had to wear a kippah, but I didn't understand it.
Guys can come here, doesn't matter how long their hair is, what they're wearing, they're accepted, we give them a hug, they can play some pool, play some drums, get involved, and they can just be. By approaching it the right way and giving them the freedom and the respect that they deserve and they need, they flourish.
Yom Tov meal that Aliyah made, the first few ones were really special to me because it was the first Yom Tov that I had experienced in a long time and had observed properly.
We're there for young Jews who not necessarily fitting into any of the mainstream places. There's nothing better than seeing the youth you work with grow and move ahead in their life and start coming to shul again on Shabbos and start wearing yarmulke and start putting up the tefillin. There's nothing better than that.
Ring, ring, rang telephone. Hello, Sarah, said Aunt Miriam. Can you have a Shabbos guest? I shook my head. Who, me? If I had a soft rug for tired feet and a corner with a...
Hey, it's me, your friend, your companion, calling to you from our little island.
In 2003, when we started Friendship Circle, we started with a once-a-week program pairing up children and young adults with special needs with similar-aged volunteers, in contrast to the older carer age model. We saw that in this way true friendships were forged.
The aim was to create a safe space where the children's abilities, as opposed to the individual disabilities, could be focused on. 15 years on, and we still remain the only organisation to offer weekly programming for children with special needs of all abilities.
I'm sure the name Moshe Zalman gave me, I guess, a koyach to take a bit of a risk and to move to Frankston, which is a bit of an unknown. So I hope I can live up to the name that I have.
But the suburbs of Melbourne were only the beginning. The Rebbe continued to urge the establishment of Chabad houses, and the vast continent of Australia beckoned to the Rebbe's Chassidim. There were Jewish populations, from large to tiny, in many places throughout the country.
It was the vision of the Lubavitch Rebbe to establish Chabad houses in every center of communal life throughout the world.
The Rebbe says Mashiach will come when every single Yid will feel an obligation to Hashem, where the Pintel Yid is going to be developed and exposed. This is the work of all of the Shluchim. Do we make everybody that we are in contact with Frume Yidden? But what the Avodas HaShlichus is, to see to it that every single Yid in every single state and in every single city should have a connection with the Rebbeinu Shalom and to feel obligated in some way or another.
And I met Rabbi Feldman, Rebbe Feldman, when they first came to this country, and I had very little, and they had no children, and today, you know what I have done with all of your help, thank you, and we know the Rebbe has also got many children, well, rabbis all over the world, and many of them in Sydney.
Okay, Harry, tell me what you said about Chabad.
I say that without Chabad, we will not have any Jews in the diaspora. Wherever you go, there's a Chabad Rabbi, a Chabad Chazan, a Chabad Shoichet, it's always there, and they are the ones that keep it together. And that is why we have to help Chabad all the time. Otherwise, we lose our identity. That's it. Intermarrying, gone.
There's a question that people ask, how was the Rebbe able to inspire so many thousands of young couples to leave their homes and to go away to the other side of the world?
The passion that the Rebbe instilled within us actually grows, and the excitement grows.
I love to see the way that it's grown. From when I first started coming, it was quite a small in the Kalitan street, and now it's grown to this wonderful place that we have here.
The mission the Lubavitch Rebbe entrusted us with is that no Jew should be left behind. And we at Chabad are committed to reaching out to all members of our community, young and old, and try to guide and inspire that everyone should find his or her way to become closer to authentic Yiddishkeit.
Incredible friendship that has developed between the younger members of the community and the rabbis in the synagogue is really unprecedented.
At Young Adult Chabad, we try to service Sydney's Jewish young adults with a number of social and educational opportunities.
We can sit, we can eat, it's a very relaxed atmosphere. The rabbi encourages debate, discussion, and we learn.
All these wonderful things in this world, amazing complexities of nature, and they say it's nature. But we say, what's the power of nature?
Lots of people come for the shiur and really enjoy it, and someone just mentioned today that it's the highlight of their week.
I enjoy it and look forward every week to the shiur and the pizza.
No group of Jews, no matter how remote, was too small for the Rebbe's embrace. Eventually, a Chabad presence would be established in all the major Jewish centres in the country, and many of the minor ones as well.
The Rebbe took a personal interest in South Australia. In the 50s, he ensured a rabbi and cantor were here for the high holy days. In the 80s, he paid a monthly airline fee so an interstate rabbi would teach Jewish spirituality here. Today, we at Chabad SA provide the only local traditional rabbi. We offer children's and adult education, Shabbat and Yom Tov hospitality and prayers, SA's only weekly traditional services, and much more. Chabad House is a haven for Jewish visitors and offers technology, kosher, and spiritual needs. We also serve Outback Jews with visitation and online Torah classes. The Chabad presence here is one constant for Jews in the heart of our country.
Chabad in Queensland, Gold Coast, and Passionate in Queensland.
My wife and I came as the Rebbe's Shluchim to be Chabad of the Gold Coast in 1993 with the Rebbe's special bracha and askama. I should also mention that on Ches Elu Tafshin Menches 1988, Rab Motel Feiglin passed by dollars and he mentioned to the Rebbe that he wanted a bracha to open up a Chabad house on the Gold Coast. And the Rebbe gave him $2, which I still have to this very day, $2 special that the Rebbe gave him. Since then, Baruch Hashem, we've expanded our peulos. We have built a mikveh. we have shiurim, we have various hospitality for the locals, for backpackers, for visitors, and Baruch Hashem, we strive to continue and give the Rebbe Naches. With the arrival of the pioneering work of Rabbi Moshe Zalman 100 years ago, he has proven to us all that with the planting of a young sapling in Shepparton, a magnificent orchard of Chabad institutions and Yiddishkeit throughout Australia has flourished and continues to bloom. Na ya ma 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 yira yira ra 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 ma yo yo ayinam 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 Am Yisrael Am Yisrael Am Yisrael Chai Am Yisrael Am Yisrael Am Yisrael Chai. The power of the words of Torah that children recite has a tremendous impact throughout the entire world. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai.
And survivor of the Shoah to honor us with lighting the menorah.
Shosani sim la vateno be'amim
Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael.
Many years ago, when I was on Shlichus in Miami, I had a Yechidus with the Rebbe, where the Rebbe told me that dedicating myself totally to Shlichus is a tikkun, will fix any lacking in my life. And when I heard these words from the Rebbe, I knew that I have to be involved in Shlichus. And the Rebbe wrote that the ultimate area of Shlichus is Mokim Rochik Begashmius Uberuchtius, a place that's far physically and spiritually. And therefore, when I had an opportunity to go to Australia, I was enthusiastic, because at least it was far physically. Then when an opportunity came for Tasmania, I was even more excited, because it was an opportunity for a place that's far beruchni spiritually. I was sitting in Kollel and learning, and a student, a medical student, Robert Hanner, came by and asked me to learn with him, and I learned with him. And then he asked me if I can help them do Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur in Tasmania. After that, I went to Purim, and when I went to Tasmania the first time, I saw that all of Yiddishkeit was in the hands of a Christian woman who, at the time we suspected and later was confirmed, had missionary intentions. I got involved and I started visiting Tasmania regularly. Then the Rebbe made this campaign about Batei Chabad, and I was very enthusiastic about Batei Chabad. And one time I was speaking to Yossel Gutnick about the pros and cons of having a Chabad house in Tasmania. And he was very doubtful. And it was right before there was a Feiglin, a hookup of the Rebbe. The Rebbe said that if there's any place in the world where you're not sure if a Chabad house is suitable there or not, this itself, that the doubt has entered your mind, is the answer that 100% sure you should have a Chabad house there. And when we heard this, I said to Yossel, "No, what do you think?" He said, "This is the answer of the Rebbe to us." And Yossel for sure wanted a Chabad house. And I asked Motel Feiglin, I know nothing about real estate, to come with me. I would not have the confidence to buy without him. And Motel went with me. He got the agent to pick us up in the airport, and they showed us the place. And Motel offered a specific price. He offered then $120,000 for the property, when the official going price was $138,000. But he said, take it or leave it. And the owner approved it, and we did the purchase, and they drove us straight back to the airport.
I've been involved in purchasing real estate for over 35 years, and there's always issues and problems in every transaction. But I noticed that when involved in buying Batei Chabad, doesn't matter where in Australia they were, it was just like sailing on a cloud. It just went differently. The problems just didn't exist. And this was all part that we felt was part of the Rebbe's bracha.
The Tasmania Chabad house, which we Baruch Hashem had for 28 years, had 7 bedrooms, and because of that, we were able to have proper kosher Shabbosim, and there have been, thanks to that, dozens and dozens of people who kept Shabbos, dozens of families who came closer to Yiddishkeit. It influenced people from all over Tasmania. There's now my son Yochanan is there on Shlichus. This year he put his goal is to have a cup of coffee with every one of the 300 Jews in Tasmania, and he's Baruch Hashem having amazing success.
This year Chabad Tasmania celebrated 35 years, and we were able to reach Jews from all over the state, from all the way in the northeast corner, Flinders Island, the northwest corner of Smithton, and all the way down south to a town called Dover, and everywhere in between. We've made many events throughout Tasmania, through Burnie, Devonport, Launceston and Hobart.
Byron Bay, Malambimbi, and Ocean Shore. We have been advised this is the main area in Australia for Israeli tourists and also other Jewish tourists, as well as the Jewish local that live in the place permanently. We're going to do Friday night and Shabbos meal, and we're going to daven during those days. We're going to do candle lighting with the women, and we're going to sing around the table and try to make a happy place for everyone. On weekdays, we're going to do shiurim, and we're going to put tefillin. We try to put tefillin with everyone, and we make a comfortable place to everyone to come. And of course, will be much more activity on Yamim Tovim, like Pesach and Sukkot.
And then, from Australia to the rest of the world. The once tiny Lubavitch community in Melbourne itself became a fountainhead of Chabad inspiration. Today, there are hundreds of shluchim born and raised in Australia, serving all over the globe.
I had the tremendous chus of receiving the Siddur that Rav Moshe Zalman Feiglin cried out to Hashem and prayed with. And he poured out his heart that he could touch the Yidden in Australia. He overcame incredible obstacles. He built a base Rivka. He had no idea where the funds would come from. And today, every morning for the last 8 years, I'm excited to open up the Siddur, to cry out to Hashem to help me fulfill the Rebbe's shlichus of touching the 25,000 Yidden in Columbus, Ohio, with our Chabad house and our soon-to-be completed mikveh, our Chabad house downtown, and our Chabad house at the largest university in America, The Ohio State University. I hope and I pray that we can fulfill the Rebbe's shlichus.
Many direct descendants of Moshe, Zalman and Feiglin have followed their footsteps, either as shluchim of Chabad houses bringing Yiddishkeit to cities all over the world, or helping to establish and secure various areas of Eretz Yisrael.
אני מתכבד להזמין את חבר הכנסת משה פייגלין לעלות לבמה.
כבוד היושב ראש, חבריי חברי הכנסת, תרשו לי לספר לכם מעט על עצמי. שמי משה זלמן, בנה של אסתר תיבדל לחיים ארוכים, ובנו של יעקב צבי פייגלין, זיכרונו לברכה. הנני נצר לאדמו"רי חב"ד ולאנשי העלייה הראשונה שעלו לארץ בשנות ה-80 של המאה ה-19. סבא, זיכרונו לברכה, היה התינוק הראשון שנולד במטולה. אבותיי, ממייסדי המושבה משמר הירדן הישנה, מי שמזדמן לו ככה בדרך לגשר בנות יעקב יכול להציץ בשלט של משמר הירדן הישנה ולראות שם את בתי פייגלין.
אתם טבחתם, אתם רצחתם, ובעזה עד עכשיו רוצחים, והצבא הוא צבא של רוצחים.
כפי שהבטחתי, מי שיקרא לחיילי צה"ל רוצחים לא יישאר פה ולו שנייה אחת. אני מבקש מחבר הכנסת גנאים לצאת מהמליאה עכשיו. תודה רבה. כשעמדתי מתחת לחופה ואמרתי, כמו שכל אחד מאיתנו אומר, אם אשכחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני, התכוונתי למה שאמרתי, ואין לי כוונה לשכוח את ימיני, וימיני לא תצביע בעד מסירה
אבל אני שואל אותך, אתה יודע שבממשלה, בראשות בנימין נתניהו,
ולא של גרגר אחד מארץ ישראל.
אוקיי.
רק ארצנו, זו ארצנו, היא קדושה לנו, עד הגרגר האחרון. לא נוותר על גרגר אחד מאדמת ארצנו הקדושה, היא כולה שלנו.
Hi, my name is Yedidia Slonim, the grandson of Shmuel Feiglin, the youngest son of Moshe Zalman and Leah Feiglin, Zichronam Livracha. We're standing here in the Shiloh Valley, surrounded by the Shomron Mountains, which me, Yedidia, as part of the Nachala settling movement, have been dedicated in the past 15 years to redeeming all these lands, to buy them from Arabs and turn them into flourishing communities, agricultural, industrial areas, communities, families, schools, and all of you join us. אנחנו באנו פה לנחלת אבותינו, באנו לבנות אותה. הדבר הכי טבעי זה שאנחנו נתיישב פה בכל ארץ ישראל. גם עד פעם לעלות לארץ ישראל לא היה חוקי. אנחנו בעד נילים, אנחנו בונים בגאון, אנחנו לא מסתתרים שום דבר שבונים, אנחנו קוראים לכולם. ואנחנו, אין לנו שום דבר להסתיר שאנחנו בונים, הפוך, אנחנו גאים בזה, שמחים. יאללה חבר'ה, מהר, אין זמן!
My great-grandfather left this country over 100 years ago. He always dreamed of returning to Israel. Here we are, Yerushalayim, directly behind us, the capital of Israel. Here's the city of Yerushalayim. Here is Har Nevo. Look around. You have a bigger celebration of Rabbeinu. You're actually standing here at Kodesh. Moshe Rabbeinu, unfortunately, don't have the privilege of walking the land of Israel.
In Switzerland,
Rav Yaakov e Yuti Cantor visitarono comunque il Ticino una storica giornata di incontri
iniziata in un caffè e continuata in vari uffici ed abitazioni, rivelò il bisogno di una presenza Chabad permanente nel cantone.
In Thailand,
I landed in Thailand, was picked up from the airport by Mr. Kashani.
We didn't have nothing, absolutely nothing. Actually, when the Chabad came, changed everything.
I'm not the most observant Jew, but I want to marry Jewish. I want Jewish children. Chabad is a huge ability to just facilitate, like front line, kind of saving Jewish souls.
I have a factory in Thailand that I opened over 10 years ago.
After the military service, I went to travel like many of the Israelis, backpacking.
There's a saying, if you have nothing to do, it's cheaper to do it in Thailand.
Thailand definitely throws up a strange assortment of folks, not just Israeli backpackers, and his ability to help them through emotional and financial issues, I found incredibly impressive.
And I think it's what has been driving the Jewish community to stay together for the last 20 years.
20 years is not a resting spot. It's not a time to stop. It's 20 and upwards, time to grow.
in Russia, Chabad's mother country. In many places throughout the United States.
The University of Pennsylvania is an Ivy League university, home to the famed Wharton Business School, where there are around 5,000 Jewish students in 1 square mile here on campus. Our aim is to reach as many Jewish students and faculty as we can, to share with them the beauty, the joy, and the depth of their heritage.
And the way we do this is through hosting weekly Shabbos dinners, or a variety of innovative ideas to bring people together who wouldn't ordinarily come together or who wouldn't ordinarily come to a Shabbos dinner, and to expose them to something new, a new angle.
And even in Crown Heights itself.
Aliyah is a place in Crown Heights where young adults who didn't fit the mainstream mold, yet still have tremendous potential and tremendous ability, can come and get connected and feel the same connection that anyone else can in the community. Someone may come here because he wants to learn. So we have one of our rabbis, we'll learn with them. Somebody needs a loan, we'll arrange a loan. They need a job, get them a job. We have the more extreme cases where people need therapy, they need rehab. We have a liaison that we refer people to constantly who knows the best place for every situation.
Throughout the years, Aliyah has made a big difference here in Crown Heights. Ultimately, it affects us all because it's not just outside, it's our kids.
I've seen Rabbi Feiglin time and time again, literally save people and take them off the street and give them a home, give them a place, give them a community, and doesn't turn you down because you don't look like him or act like him.
He never stops, he never gives up on us, never.
Aliyah kind of like put me on my feet with regards to education.
I learned a big part of my GED through here.
There's non-stop programming, the doors are always open, and literally the place is full.
They have barbecues, and they have bring-ins, and they have sushi nights. They have a gym, they work out, they let off steam. There's a music room, they bang on some drums and play guitar.
There's something for everybody, and that's what makes the place so unique.
We are here to embrace them and support them in every possible way. We focus on the overall well-being, and I think that's important. That's what we learn in Chassidus, that a human being is comprised of many facets, but they all fuse together. We cannot divorce physical from spiritual from emotional. Everything has to fuse together. That's what we do here. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zel Hazeh. Every Jew is responsible for each other. According to Chassidus, we learn that every Jew is comprised of each other. because essentially we're all part of the same being.
The Rebbe said that being that every Rebbe inherits all the greatnesses and all the qualities of the previous Rebbe, the same is true about us. For those people who participate in Yud Beis Tammuz, which is the day of the freedom of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and so forth and so on, so the previous Rebbe is protecting him from that situation. Because now, after Yom Tammuz, we see many more miracles and stories that are taking place as a result of people going to the Ohel, people opening up Eidos Kodesh, or people just wherever they are.
Travel. Wherever Jews go, Torah has to go with them in whatever state and whatever situation they find themselves. And if 100 years ago Torah had to come to Australia, Lubavitch had to come to Australia, Chossids had to come to Australia, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a Misaveh V'Asibais, he made all type of different reasons, and eventually we arrived here. But Torah has to travel not only in one place, but it has to be Faratzto, Yomov, Akedmo, V'Tzafayno, V'Negbo. And the 100 years which has gone by, and the Torah which has traveled to all parts of Australia.
I do not believe that there is anywhere in the world a story like this story. And as I said before, Klei Kodesh, who came not only in the 1800s but even in the 1900s in the pre-war period, already the first generation, in some cases, was lost to Yiddishkeit. Further down the line, certainly that was the case. And here we had a person whose 9 children all grew up al Torah, al Taras HaKodesh. All of them became involved in community. Reb Moshe surrounded himself with Klei Kodesh. It was an unparalleled story that went on for generations that I don't believe has a parallel worldwide. My father told a story that when he came there as a teacher, that Moshe Zalman sat him down on a tree stump, pulled out a Tanya, and asked him if he knew what it was. Now, my father did not know what it was, but the point was that the Moshe Zalman was interested that a person who would be a teacher in Shepparton should know what a Tanya was. Every time that we step on this ground, all of the ground that has been hallowed by the work of Chabad should acknowledge that which the Feiglins did, that which the 5 families and the Vilshanskis did, everything that was done before it, because it is only on the basis of what they have done that we have what we have today.
And so the Chabad story continues. But it all began in a remote country town when a fruit farmer welcomed a new Sefer Torah to his tiny Jewish community. On behalf of the community, Zayda Moshe had commissioned a Torah scroll from a scribe in Eretz Yisrael. When it arrived, one day in around 1923, Reb Chaim Yoffa was given the honour of travelling to Melbourne to collect it, but Reb Chaim missed the regular train returning to Shepparton. Seeing his distress, the station master arranged for a seat for him on an unscheduled train soon to depart. This train had been commissioned especially in honour of the Australian Governor-General, who was paying a state visit to Shepparton to unveil a war memorial in nearby Mooroopna. All the important citizens of Shepparton and the whole local area lined up at the station to greet His Excellency. The shiny military band was there, nervously waiting for the sign. The train arrived and silence reigned. All eyes focused in awe on the first man to step down onto the platform, a tall, dignified personage wearing a black hat and reverently carrying an important-looking object wrapped in royal blue velvet. Someone duly gave the sign, and the band struck up its regal welcome. Zayda Moshe had driven his horse and Jinka there to meet him. They travelled together until they were within half a mile of the shul. Then, as a spontaneous mark of respect for the sacred scroll, Zayda Moshe alighted from the vehicle and led the horse on foot the rest of the way.